Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with some more Socrates. Today we are going to be diving back into Plato. We're going to be getting into the discussions, and I was a little bit torn about where to start. I could have went chronologically, which would put us in a very different place than this, and it would go through piece by piece how man should be organized, how governments should be organized, and then we would get to this discussion. But for me, this is a little bit self serving in a couple of different ways. First off, I'm building a game, if you're unaware. I'm not some scholar who is doing this for scholarly research. I'm doing it because I am building a video game, and Atlantis features heavily in my video game, and that's how I came across Plato. Through Randall Carlson, suggesting so many times that I actually read the works of Plato. And so, as I am basing my game off of Atlantis, it makes sense that I would investigate the one reference to Atlantis, right? The one really good one that we have comes from these two dialogues. Also, I hold some rather unconventional beliefs, and this is a good place to bring them into light so that people who are expecting scholarly discussion do not get deceived. I believe in things other than the normal. I believe that there are things that we have not explained and probably can never explain. I am okay with not knowing that there are, or knowing that there are things that I don't know. I would like to, but I'm okay with not knowing them. I also believe that there are things that are possible that we are restricted from by our lack of knowledge. And I believe deep into conspiracy land here, like this is no means a scholarly assumption. I believe that the society of Pythagoreans, like the let he who is ignorant of mathematics not pass through here, that society were key holders to those abilities. And one of those abilities is the ability to astral project. I just lost a lot of people. If you're still here, that's cool. The ability to astral project is not some just weird thing that like people make up to deceive other people. It is a possibility. You can, through discipline and following the eight laws of creation and being in accordance with the proper motivations and all the things involved, remove your soul from yourself. It's not a wise idea, but in the proper scenarios with the proper precautions, you can take your consciousness out of your meat suit. Now, that leaves you vulnerable to forces that are not assigned a meat suit. So you must be extremely careful in this. But some of the later discussions will give more verification to what I am claiming here, but I believe that Socrates had access to this, and not only him, but also his students. It is not unreasonable to believe, therefore, that if he had access and was able to teach it, that other people were able to learn it. That assumption that I am making, that they hold this knowledge, that the knowledge is there, it is able to be taught, but only those who are worthy seek it out and are able to use it correctly. Like, that knowledge is the only way that these dialogues could possibly have taken place, right? Because by the time of Timaeus, Socrates was already dead. By the time that the interaction between him and Plato happened. But if it is true that the society was able to project in this manner, in a conscious direction, and through that able to discourse, then it would be possible. There's another possibility that I do not discount, although I hold it in lesser accord, would be that the communications of ancestrals, right? Then you get into the, well, some of these people were still alive at the time and could have, like, I think that they all possess the ability to astrally project and to hold discourse as that. It's not outside the realm of possibility. It is not in my current abilities. I have been outside of the meat suit. Only once has it been intentional, and it was not like I went wandering along. It was talking to people of old, right? And so I don't have extensive knowledge of that, but I have been outside of this. I have been knocked outside of this and had to consciously re enter this. That is something that happened to me and I can never prove to you. But it gives me the assumption going forward that these things are workable. I don't, therefore, hold the common view that this discussion is just merely or Plato contemplating the other's viewpoints. And instead, I look at it as though it is not only an actual representation of them providing discourse, but a somewhat historical recreation. It would explain why, instead of summoning Timaeus to recount the stories of Solon or the other one, Critias. I have to see it to say it like it's right here. Critias. That's how I pronounce it. It's probably wrong, but anyway, let's go ahead and transition that over. So it's possible for them to hold this discourse, right? That's what the whole of what I'm trying to say here is. And so let's get into it. I've already wasted a good bit of time on the introduction, but hopefully I ran away the people who would be like, well, it's not possible to astrally project. I believe it is. And that's all there is to that. Like, we can argue about it. You're not going to convince me otherwise. I have been outside of the meat suit. So now we have the persons in the dialogue. We have Socrates, we have Timaeus, we have Hermocrates, and we have Critias. Socrates, Critias, and Hermocrates were contemporaries. Timaeus was not. And by what I mean by that is that Socrates taught Hermocrates and Critias, from my best understanding. I may have that a little mixed up, but from my understanding, he taught two of them, but the other one he never even met in person. And so, Hermocrates was a general. He was not like a great, successful general. Like, he had several small victories and several rather large defeats. And so you wouldn't necessarily consider him the wisest one to consult. But he never actually makes his appearance in this. And we could speculate as to why, but it may be somehow related to a passing. But I believe that the reason he was not here, the reason why we have this first part, is because he was not there projecting astrally for whatever reason it happened to be. Timaeus never actually met Socrates, as far as I can determine. I could be wrong about that. Y'all are free to correct me, and I will take the knowledge. But from the little bit of research I did not deep dive it. I'm not after a doctorate. He did not actually meet Socrates. And so the only way that this happens is it is a complete fabrication where Plato is arguing all points. He is arguing Socrates, Timaeus, and Critias in these dialogues, or that he was actually expecting Hermocrates to show up and something delayed him, even though these people never met in the flesh. All right, now, into the dialogue. Let me get a sip of this water real quick. And we start with Socrates. 1, 2, 3. But my dear Timaeus, where's the fourth of our banqueters from yesterday who will now provide the feast? I believe that the other one is Plato, right? Timaeus, some illness has befallen him, Socrates, since he would not have missed this gathering deliberately. then you and your friends here have the task of supplying the part of the absentee. Entirely so. Indeed, as far as lies in us, we shall not be found wanting, since it would not be right if those of us who are left did not repay you lavishly when we were entertained with such fitting hospitality yesterday. Now, I'm unable to determine which of the dialogues was yesterday, right? This is today, and we have tomorrow. We are missing the next day. What was yesterday? What was Socrates' discourse on? Let me know. Now, do you remember? This is Socrates again. He's talking to Timaeus. This is the main body of the conversations between the two. Now, do you remember what I assigned you to speak about and what the topics were? We remember some of them, but since you are here, you will remind us of the others. Better still, if it's not a problem for you, go over them again, briefly from the beginning, so that we can be more sure of them. And maybe this is it. Maybe this is the entirety of it, but sorry. So be it. I believe the discussions I was involved in yesterday were mainly concerned with the citizen body and what kind seemed best to me and what sort of men constituted. Maybe that's republic, and if so, that is a long discourse. And what you said seemed very reasonable to us all. And Socrates, didn't we first separate people engaged in farming or any other occupations within the citizen body from the warrior class? Yes. And so, based upon their nature, we assigned each a single occupation appropriate to themselves, one skill to each. We said that those who must fight on behalf of everyone else were the only ones who should be the guardians of the city. And if anyone from outside, or even from within, should proceed against her with ill intent, they should judge them greatly, if they were their own subjects and natural friends, and harshly if they encounter them in battle among our enemies. Absolutely. Now, I do not believe that this is the best course for men. I disagree with Socrates on this, because this is authoritarian. This is investing your defense in someone else, and that's great if you're the defender. It is not so great if you are waiting on the defender. I am a very large proponent of self-harm. I'm a very large proponent of self-responsibility and self-control as well. And so I think that you should be able to execute violence efficiently and appropriately as needed, right? And not have to rely upon the authorities to take care of you. This is the opposite of that. This is the authorities will take care of everyone, and anyone who transgresses the authorities will take care of. I don't agree with that. Indeed, I think we said that some nature belonging to the soul of the guardians must be both especially spirited but also philosophic at the same time, so that it may be appropriately gentle or harsh to either party as required. Yes. And what are their training? Aren't they to be trained in music and gymnastic and all subjects proper to guardians? Entirely so. Yes, and it was said, I think, that those who have been trained in this way would never regard gold or silver or anything else as their own private possession, but, like soldiers who receive their guardians' pay from the people they protect, in measure appropriate to self-controlled men, they would spend it communally and live shared lives together, careful to ensure excellence in all their affairs while holding themselves aloof from other pursuits. And so this is taking the warrior class and setting them apart, but they are excellent. They make no mistakes. They are perfect. They are the law. Man is never going to be perfect. That is great for speculating about ideals. It's the same problem with communism and anarcho-capitalism. In an ideal world, they work, but in reality, they don't. Communal living, however, I do agree with. Not to the extent that you don't have anything, right? But more along the lines of like the Amish and the Mennonites, where we communally own these things, and you individually are responsible for this portion of it. So this house belongs to you. It is yours, it is your family's, but it also belongs to the community. And if you are not doing the right thing, then the community can remove you, and that's pushing communism, though, right? That's getting beyond communalism. I think that what should happen is that the communities should support each other, that you should have your communal people, that you should live communally. And I grow apple trees, and you grow fig trees, and we trade apples and figs and provide for each other communally. And that if you're hungry and you're having a hard year, that I help you, but that I also know you well enough that I know you are working. Like, you're not just not doing, you have a reason for why things are bad. Communally, we should be taking care of each other. We shouldn't be relying on the government to do those type of things. And so I believe in the ideal. It would be great if it was possible for this class of people to be perfection. As it stands, we have an all-volunteer fighting force here in the States. And as a former sailor, I can promise you they are not exactly the cream of the crop. They are the people who volunteer. They are the ones who are dedicating themselves, at least for a time, to this cause, but they're not living the exact ideal. I can promise you that one. And that's okay, because they're humans and they're on a journey, and that's part of it. It's okay to argue about the ideal, but you have to keep reality in mind. I think we said that some nature belonging to the soul of the guardians must be especially spirited but also philosophic, so that it may be appropriately gentle and harsh, so that is again a perfect human. Yes. What of their training? Aren't they also to be trained in music and gymnastic and all subjects proper to guardians? Exactly so. Yes, and it was said, I think, that those who have been trained in this way would never regard gold or silver or anything else as their own private possession, but, like soldiers who receive their guardians' pay for the people they protect, in measure appropriate to self-controlled men, they would spend it communally and live shared lives together, careful to ensure excellence in all their affairs while holding themselves aloof from other pursuits. The perfect man, but not just the perfect man, the perfect men. Like a whole group of men acting perfect. And what's more, we also mentioned women and said that their natures would be formed like the men's, and all the responsibilities would be allocated to all the women on a shared basis, whether they related to war or to everyday life. That too was stated. Now, what did we say about the procreation of children? Or is that easy to remember because what we said was so unusual? We proposed that all wives and children should be common to everybody, and we contrived that no one would ever recognize their own particular offspring, but they would all consider everyone else as their relatives, regarding them as brothers and sisters, as if they were all within the appropriate age range, as parents and grandparents if they were older, as children and grandchildren if they were younger. Yes, as you say, that is easy to remember. Again, I have some disagreements here. This would be, I guess, ideal if you were mindless and you didn't know what love was. But all wives and children should be common to everybody, and so that no one would ever recognize their own particular offspring. That can lead to some severe problems. Now, granted, the population is going to be large enough that the inbreeding possibilities are going to be slight, right? But still, there is a chance that you wind up with your sister, or your brother, or your cousin, or your aunt. So, right off the top, that's a bad idea. That is, however, what we are aimed at here now, today, and that disregarding them as brothers and sisters, however, that's a good idea, right? To treat everyone as though they are your relation, even if they are not, is a good idea. Not knowing if they actually are or not is not a good idea. And so that distinction is important because you should treat everyone as if they were worthy of respect, because they are. Every single person in every single place at every single time is worthy of respect. They may not be acting respectfully. You may have to act defensively, but they're still worthy of respect. Yes, as you say, that is easy to remember. But, of course, you also recall how they were to be born with the most excellent natures possible. We said that the male and female rulers must secretly arrange the marriage unison so that the bad men and good men are assigned by some lottery exclusively to women of their own kind. No controversy would be created by this, as they would assume that chance was responsible for the outcome. Well, yeah, that that absolutely sounds like the ideal way to govern. We remember, and what's more, we actually said that the offspring of good people should be reared, whilst the offspring of bad people should be secretly handed over to another city. And however, as they grow up, the rulers of that city, the rulers should be ever watchful to take the deserving ones back again, and let the undeserving ones among their own number take the place of those who have returned. And so we said. And so, dear Timaeus, now that we have gone over the main points once more, have we recounted then exactly what was said yesterday, or is there anything we still need to say because it was omitted? Not at all, Socrates. These are the very things that were said. After all that we have recounted about the citizen body we have described, I would like you to hear the sort of feeling I have about it. Well, the feeling is something like this. It's as if someone who has seen beautiful animals either in picture or actually alive, but remaining at rest were to develop a desire to see them moving and also competing in a contest which seemed suited to their nature. I think he's going where I was at, right? I haven't read all the way through this. I too feel just the same about the city we described. I would gladly listen to someone telling a story of contests the city engages in as she struggles against other cities, and how she enters into war in the proper spirit, and the conduct of war exhibits towards the other cities the qualities appropriate to her education and training, both in her actions and negotiations, in what she does and in what she says. Now, in all this, Critias and Hermocrates, I have come to realize that I myself am quite unable to sing the praises of these men and this city adequately. In my own case, this is no wonder, but I have come also to have the same opinion of both the poets, both ancient and modern. It's not that I disrespect poets as a class, but it is obvious to everyone that the imitative folk will imitate whatever they have been trained in, most easily and excellently. However, anything that lies outside of their particular training is difficult for them to imitate well, in action, and even more difficult in words. And I believe the sophists, as a class, for their part, are very experienced in long speeches and other fineries, yet, because they wander from city to city and have no city of their own, I fear that they may have somehow misunderstand men who were at once both philosophers and statesmen, and that such men would be able to do and say as they engage actively in war and fight battles or communicate verbally with others. What's left then is the class with your disposition, which by nature and nurture possess both characteristics simultaneously. Indeed, Timaeus here is from Locri, the best governed city in Italy, and he is superior to any man there in property and family connections. He has been involved in the highest offices and honors of the city, and he has also, in my opinion, reached the very pinnacle in matters of philosophy. And I presume everyone in this city knows that Critias is no amateurs in the matter we are discussing. As for Hermocrates, we must believe the many witnesses who say that he is competent in all these matters, both by nature and by his upbringing. Now, this is what I had in mind yesterday when you asked me to speak about the affairs of the citizen body, so I agreed readily, as I knew that no one would present a better account of the next topic than yourselves, if you were willing. Indeed, you are the only men today who could engage the city in some suitable war and display all the qualities appropriate to her. So, when I had finished speaking on my assignment, I in turn assigned you the topics I am now describing. So, having considered this together among yourselves, you have now agreed to pay me back with a feast of words. Here I am, then, adorned for the occasion and more than ready than anyone to receive your gift. Hermocrates. Yes, indeed, Socrates, just as Timaeus here says, we shall not be short of enthusiasm. Wait, I thought it was Hermocrates that wasn't here. Is it Plato that's not here? How does that work? Maybe Critias isn't here today and he's there tomorrow. No, he's here today. I don't know. There's somebody missing, but apparently everybody's here. I thought Hermocrates was missing. Maybe this is them playing the part of Hermocrates. Like they did say that they would do that, right? Yes, indeed. Socrates, just as Timaeus here says, we shall not be short of enthusiasm, nor have we any excuse whatsoever for not doing as you ask. Accordingly, we considered these very issues as soon as we left here yesterday, and arrived at Critias' guest quarters, where we are staying, and even before that on the road. In fact, he told us a story which he heard long ago. Tell the story to Socrates now, Critias, so that he can help us decide whether it is relevant to our assignment or irrelevant. And that's what I must do if our third companion Timaeus also agrees. And Timaeus says, I certainly agree. Where are we at on time? Hold on. All right, so I'm actually going to wrap this one up right here because this story is going to be very important, and I want it to be told in its entirety. But what is about to happen is we are going to get an alternative history. Y'all will have to tune into the next one to catch it, but we are given knowledge that we do not have as a society. There are individual pockets of this knowledge, but it is not common. We are going to get a story of before the flood. And so we are going to take that as a whole separate section because y'all know how interesting that is going to be. It's going to make this one a little bit shorter than I would really like, but that's okay. We have plenty of time to get into it. Like I said, this is a good bit of me researching for me, and it is me learning things that I did not know, and it is me taking assumptions that most people don't. I'm taking it as this is an actual conversation. It is confusing that Hermocrates showed up because I'm pretty sure he was not there in the beginning. And maybe it is them arguing that. They did say that they were going to do that. I'll go back and look at it in a minute. But this is a good place to stop because this alternative history is an important one to know about, right? And I want to pique y'all's interest. I want y'all to look at the next one and really pay attention to what is being described and what's going on. Because this alternative history was 9,000 years before them, which was 3,000 years before us, which equals 12,000 years ago. That is an important number. I have a whole video about that, and y'all should definitely check out that video if you are unfamiliar with what is about to happen. That's a good place to leave this. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult topic. The history on this is a little bit wonky. I know some people are going to not like it. I know. If you value the letters behind people's names, you are not going to pay any attention, and that's fine. What I do here is for the very select. It is for the few that find it. It is not me out there promoting myself to a large degree, right? I very rarely do self promotion. Most of this is natural, organic growth by people who are curious. And so they are the ones I am naturally trying to attract, the ones who are naturally seeking knowledge. I want the best knowledge. If you have better knowledge, let me know in the comments down below. If you like what I am doing here, let me know down below. Give me a like, give me a share. Throw me a follow. Let me know you appreciate this. I'm going to keep doing it, but it's nice to know. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pit State. Peace.